Good evening and welcome to 60 Minutes. February the 18th this year was one hell of a day for Glenn Dickson. Out spearfishing 40 kilometres off the Far North Queensland coast, he was attacked, not once, but twice, by a 3.5 metre bull shark. It severed his right leg and ruptured a main artery. He was hours away from medical help. He died 6 times. So much went wrong that day for Glenn, but so much more went right. His mates kept reviving him as they raced him to hospital, and he kept on thinking about his fiancée and precious young children. If ever it was needed, Glenn's story proves the power of love can be life-saving.
We're in a boat at the moment, we're racing in, we just had a shark attack.
Are you with the patient now?
Yeah, we're with the patient, but he's not in a good way.
In the middle of the Coral Sea and on the brink of death.
I remember seeing a bright light. It was very bright.
Is there any serious bleeding?
Yes.
Few could survive what Glenn Dickson endured, but as his life slipped away,
He's not in a good way, mate, he's not in a good way.
he held onto hope. What were you thinking about?
My son, my daughter, my family. In that situation, you can't think deeply. You could only see pictures of their faces. That was enough to keep me driving forward.
Glenn focused on simple things, like this, spending time with his children. 3-year-old Reef, 1-year-old Lila, and fiancée Jessie Lee, who's due to give birth to their 3rd child in just a few weeks. This is what saved your life?
Yeah, you're totally 100% right. My family saved my life.
And so did his mates, with extraordinary teamwork in difficult conditions.
Without any one of us there, I don't think Glenn would have made it.
It's hard to believe that just 2 months ago, this 25-year-old almost died. But Glenn is an extreme athlete, a personal trainer and amateur boxer who recently discovered spearfishing. It's what led him to the biggest fight of his life. Dawn breaks on February 18 and conditions are perfect. Blue skies, calm water and plenty of fish. What was it about it you think that you enjoyed so much?
The beauty of the reef. Being able to go down and not hear any noise and kind of relax, but at the same time hunt fish and get a feed out of it.
It was also how Glenn spent time with his good friend Rick Batua, a US Navy master diver with 32 years of experience. How often have you come across sharks?
Every day we go diving here.
Every day. How big?
We have some pretty good fair-sized tigers that are out there that can be upwards of 5 meters.
Glenn and Rick are joined by Peter Stefanovic and Aaron Butler, also experienced fishermen. Even though they're used to swimming with sharks, all 4 men are concerned about murky water and poor visibility, so they move to Eva Rock, off the coast of Port Hinchinbrook, hoping for clearer conditions.
The water was quite nice compared to the other places, and there was fish life everywhere, bait everywhere. I was loving it. Big caves, swim-throughs, beautiful water.
Within minutes, the shark was spotted. Peter saw it first.
I seen a big sight pectoral fin and the body of the shark. I couldn't see the head or the tail because it was sort of in the dark. And I come up and I said to Rick, there's a big shark down there.
How big was it?
3.5 meters, maybe.
Big.
Big shark.
But Glenn had become separated from the group after diving through a cave. He speared a parrotfish and was floating to the surface behind Eva Rock when the shark attacked.
All of a sudden, I felt a massive pull and shake. It got pulled slightly underwater, and I knew at that point that I was getting attacked by a shark. Kind of went in slow motion as I realised. And as I watched blood rise, that image is imprinted in my head. I'll never forget it, watching the shark come through my blood.
So the shark's coming up for a second bite now?
Yeah. I knew as he turned away that he was going to come back. So my instincts immediately kicked into survival mode, and I knew that rock was there. So I used everything that I had left to pull myself towards the rock. And he came back and got me again.
As Rick was swimming back to the boat just a few metres away, he heard a muffled scream.
When I turned around, the water was just bright red, and he was trying to claw his way up a rock face. And I could see his body moving in a way that you can't move your body, so that the shark was shaking him.
Get in the boat! Glenn's been hit by a shark!
Really, it was just a blur. We were all in the boat and we zipped around the corner there. I think it would only took 15 seconds, maybe at the most.
I wasn't giving up at all. I didn't think I'm going to die. I thought I'm going to get on the rock. That's all I could think.
My worst fears was that he was gone from the waist down both legs. As we pulled him overboard, he sort of looked at us. You can imagine he was really white. He'd lost a lot of blood. He sort of looked at us and half smiled, eh? And we thought it was weird, like...
Biggest smile on his face.
Yeah, it's just a funny sort of thing. You pull someone with their leg nearly ripped off and they're smiling at you, but...
I seen this light and it was very bright, and then it would go away, and I think that's when I got punched in the chest. And it was enough to bring me back. And then Rick in my ear telling me, "You got to go back to your family, you're not going to die on me today."
You know why they were doing that, though.
Yeah, I know exactly why.
You were dying.
Yeah. More than once, too. But I was determined.
How close were you, do you think?
As close as you can get. As close as you can get. But I never gave up. I could have gone to sleep. I remember having the choice. And I just remember, no, screw that. I'm gonna feel that pain, and Rick said keep feeling the pain. So I just focused on my breathing. I focused on that pain, and that's all I was gonna do.
Luckily for Glenn, Rick had 3 decades of first aid training while he was in the Navy. What were his injuries when you pulled him on board?
He had a 360-degree cut around his thigh, about right here. It went completely all the way around, and every vein and every artery was severed. He also had a massive gash on his calf here, slicing down into that as well. And the very first thing I did was put a tourniquet about mid-thigh.
How much time did you have to save Glenn's life?
It came down to seconds, so...
Seconds.
The first tourniquet didn't do anything to improve his color. His color was ashy white, had no pulse, had no respirations. And then I saw a little bit of blood, and I put the second tourniquet on. And the moment that happened, he came back 2 shades of color different, and he coughed, and then he screamed.
I was just single-mindedly trying to get AAA no matter what. I was just constantly redialing.
But because they were more than 40 kilometres from land, it took Aaron half an hour to get a phone signal.
He's still conscious, mate. He's awake. We've got a guy that used to be in the Navy in America. He's got him in the recovery position. We've got a tourniquet on. I'm sorry if I'm yelling, mate. I'm just...
No, you're right, mate.
Peter was behind the wheel, racing to shore.
Lucky that day it was glass flat, yeah, so I think it's about 72 kilometres, which is flat chat for that boat.
As the boat bumped along, Rick cradled Glenn in his arms, desperately trying to keep him alive.
Got to the point where I got cold and cold and colder and colder all the way up my body, and I could feel it coming up my body. And right up to, and when I reached my lungs, my breath started getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
But finally, after an agonising 45 minutes, Port Hinchinbrook Marina was in sight.
I still, at that stage, didn't think that Glenn was going to make it, but there's just so much relief seeing the ambulance bloke up there knowing they got gear to help with this, what had happened.
However, this rescue mission was far from over. Glenn was still hours away from a major hospital, and they had to tell Jessie Lee the bad news.
My phone rang, and it was Rick's wife. Her name come up on my screen. And I paused, I just looked at my phone, and I knew straight away. I knew that something had happened.
Coming up, Glenn's desperate fight to live.
Her words were, "The shark has cut through his leg like a chainsaw."
But in another cruel blow, the heartless Centrelink rejection.
And they didn't consider losing a leg a permanent disability.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
They say a man can lose 40% of his blood. I believe the doctor said he lost somewhere between 40 and 45%. So he lost so much blood that he should have just passed then.
It's been an hour since Glenn Dickson was attacked by a 3.5 metre bull shark off the coast of Far North Queensland. He's still alive, but only just, thanks to the incredible work of 3 mates.
What's important is it took 3 of us to do this. Everybody had a job to do, and everybody knew what their job was.
Now on shore, the pressure is on paramedic Martin Taylor.
What's going on, mate? What's happened?
It's a 26-year-old male.
Alone and without backup for 30 minutes. Had you ever seen anything like that before?
I've been to a lot of trauma before, but I've never been to an animal attack of such ferocity that could cause that type of injury.
He's got an IV into Glenn, straps bandages around his leg.
Have we got rescue 500 online over?
And radios for the emergency helicopter to meet at a nearby sports field.
Everything's gonna be okay, all right? I'm gonna stay right here with you, don't worry. They lost him one time in the chopper due to that bleed that was up here. Put a 3rd tourniquet on in the chopper. And the moment they put that tourniquet on and tightened things up, his color came back. He came back to him.
How many times do you think he died?
At least 6.
6 times.
At least 6. From what I saw, at least 6.
What does this say about his character? That he kept coming
He's tough. Yeah, he's very, very tough.
4 excruciating hours after the attack, Glenn finally arrives at Cairns Base Hospital. Now the pain medication has kicked in, giving him some much-needed relief.
I was telling myself I'll survive, and then all of a sudden that song came in on my head. And I started singing it kind of in my head, and I said it quite loudly as I was coming into the hospital.
After a 2-hour drive from Mission Beach, Jessie Lee had no idea what to expect.
There was just people in the room, like I couldn't tell you how many people were in the room. He had things hanging out of him everywhere, and I froze. I think it was shock. I was shaking. I could barely stand, and I just looked. I didn't want to go near him. It frightened me. Really frightened me.
Anything he said to you?
Yeah, he said he told me he would survive. He said I'll survive, and he asked me for a kiss.
Yeah, I knew I was in trouble. I wasn't sure if that kiss was going to be the last one.
In surgery, a team of 11 doctors worked on Glenn for more than 5 hours. There was no question. His right leg had to be amputated.
His surgeon came in afterwards, and her words were, "The shark has cut through his leg like a chainsaw." They had to save his life by taking his leg.
Kind of okay with that, though.
Yeah, I accepted it. It wasn't something that, you know, I just love him for who he is, not his leg, you know. If they saved his life for his leg, well, I'm just happy he's still here.
As courageously as Glenn fought, he still wasn't out of danger. He slipped in and out of a coma for 5 days and endured 3 more surgeries. Was there ever any grief on your part for losing your leg, or did you just accept it?
Just accepted it, because I know, after being awake and knowing and remembering it all, and knowing what trouble I was in, I knew my life was more in trouble than my leg. So if I had to lose my leg for my life, I accepted that pretty quickly.
Glenn's fierce determination surprised everyone. He was discharged from hospital 5 weeks after the attack.
So relax.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to start by tightening your tummy.
Now the arduous task of rehab and rebuilding his life has begun, with the help of physio, Catherine Parnaby.
The wounds are looking really good. They're all nearly healed. So we're now able to start the compression to reduce the size of the stump, and then we can look at casting him for the prosthetic limb, which is really good.
A once fit and active dad, Glenn wants to walk as soon as possible.
Lila, what you doing?
He's very young, he's very fit, he's very determined, because it takes a lot of effort mentally and physically to walk with an above-knee prosthesis.
Ready, Reese?
But that comes at a steep cost of more than $70,000 at a time when Glenn is also trying to support his young family. And in a cruel blow, Centrelink rejected Glenn's application for a disability pension.
And they didn't consider losing a leg a permanent disability. Somehow they must think I'm going to grow it back.
This is a kick in the guts that you really don't need.
Oh, it's kick in the guts for sure.
Hey! How you going, boys?
Good, Glennie.
Good to see you. All right.
Fortunately, Glenn can count on the support of his mates. Here, together, for the first time since he left hospital.
Me and the boys put our minds together and our wallets together, and we got you something hopefully you like.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How good is that? I gotta get in.
And it's your size, which is the amazing thing. It's your size.
Wow. That is so cool.
His own wheelchair, not a rental.
Thank you so much, guys.
From mates bonded for life by an experience they'll never forget.
You must be pretty proud of the job that you did.
I'm proud of him. He's the one that hung in there for 5 hours, and you know, it took all of us to get it done. And yeah, I'm happy he's living.
Glenn, what do you think of these blokes?
I'd call them heroes. There's no other word I could come up with. You know, they saved my life. What else do you call someone that saved your life?
Although he puts on a brave front, Glenn admits he can't stop thinking about West Australian teenager Letitia Brower, who died a few weeks ago from a similar injury.
The 17-year-old was mauled, it's thought, by a great white.
Would you support a cull?
To be honest, look, I don't have a big opinion on the colour. I see myself as I jumped into their territory, and I always knew the risks of what I was doing. They were here before us. So why should we have the right to come in and kill all them?
It's perspective that comes from someone who has a lot to live for.
But all will be okay, my friend.
And who dreams of one day walking his fiancée down the aisle.
We'd love to have that special day together. It'd be a really special day.
Oh. I'll probably cry more than I did about this. To finally get married and give Jessie everything she's ever wanted to, because that's important to me, to make her happy.
And with about 6 weeks left until their third child arrives, the young couple have a lot to be happy about.
Oh, tell you what, everything that I do that I took for granted, now I have a moment, and I always think I'm lucky to be able to do this again. And I do that every day with my children and Jessie. So life's great.
Hello, I'm Alison Langdon. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.